our test app for this is on your Windows 7 system. In the setup instructions, it tells you how to install this application. This is certainly not the only vulnerable web application. There are some that are publicly available online. I like one called Damn Vulnerable WebApp, which is freely available. So I'd encourage you to try that one next. OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, has one called WebGoat that actually has built-in learning exercises in it. That's a good one for beginners as well. And there's several others, so if you want to continue with websites, I encourage you to try some of those. They probably have a few more vulnerabilities than this one. This is just kind of a specific application that I actually inherited. Wasn't even mine originally, but it has a lot of the major issues in it. Alright, so it is at book service on your Windows 7 box, so it should look something like this. If you don't see the books and stuff, then the database isn't set up correctly, so a lot of what we're going to do isn't going to work. So go back and check your setup instructions until you can get it to look like this. It has install scripts and everything, so it should be pretty straightforward if you follow the instructions. If you're like me, you tend to skip steps, and sometimes things don't work. So what we're going to do here is we're mainly going to do manual analysis. I find that there's not really any products that do as good a job as I would like just doing vulnerability scanning for custom web applications, and that's just given the nature of custom web applications. Anybody can build an application, and it's really hard to make checks that'll check everything regardless of what the content is. So we will look at some automated scanning, but mainly we'll do things manually. I do use some scanners that are expensive on some of my jobs, things like Acunetics, WebInspect, things like that. I mean, just depending on what software my client that I'm working for has, generally, because those things are pretty pricey for the little tester like me. But I do use those just as a base, and then do my manual testing from there. But I'm not going to have you download like Acunetics or anything. But if your company or school has products like that, I encourage you to get familiar with them. We're going to use my favorite proxy called Burp Suite, and that's not good. How about Java Burp Suite? Exception in main. That is going to kill everything, because without the proxy, we're not going to get very far at all. And we're not actually going to have a web application section, probably. Java burp suite.jar. Locate burp suite. That's what I get for changing VMs. Something's gonna change. Well, actually, if I think about it, this was probably true in the old version of Kali as well. So let me try one more thing. So I feel like the old version of Kali had the same issue. I use Burp Suite Pro that I pay for. That's actually directly on my Mac. They have a free version on here. So we go to Applications in Kali Linux, Web Applications, Web Application Proxies, and click on Burp Suite. Yeah, that'll do it. I just forgot that. Again, I use the one that's Pro. I just click I accept, and this should load it up. There we go. Alright, cool. So we have our Burp Suite here. As you can see, it has lots of different things it can do. Some of it is going to be limited on the free version as these things go. But what we want to do is actually set up our browser to send all its traffic through this proxy. So by default, go to the proxy tab and go to options. By default, it listens on localhost 8080. You can change that if you need to. If on my browser, it's just going to be platform specific. Like on my Mac, it wants me to do it in system settings, things like that. And if we go to preferences, so edit preferences, and should be under advanced and network. This Iceweasel is like an offshoot of Firefox, so it's similar to how Firefox is set up. And go to connection settings, manual proxy configuration, where we want localhost 8080, and use proxy configuration for all protocols. Click OK. So that should send all our traffic through Burp Suite. So if we go back to this proxy tab and intercept, make sure that intercept is on, and I'll just click enter again on this so it'll reload the page. So we should see Burp Suite light up. And it says get book service http:/1.1. So we're getting the main page of this application. So we can make changes to this, though there's not really anything we want to change here. When we're done with it, we can say forward, and that'll forward it onto the browser. So for instance, where does it have it where we can log in? Or how about, let's click login here. And forward. So get book service login.aspx. It's going to take us to a new page. And if we do new user and forward that. If I put in username georgia@bulbsecurity.com, password is a bad password. Oh well, Georgia@bulbsecurity needs to be my email. I click go. It gets called, so it catches our post requests as well. So if we break it down by parameter here, we can actually see the values that are being sent. Make this a little bit bigger. So we see Georgia password and Georgia@bulbsecurity.com. So if I change password to password 1, so I change it in my proxy. The server hasn't seen it yet, so every change I make in the proxy, that's what the server is going to see. So if I send this in, George's password will be password 1, regardless of the fact that originally I put in password. Alright, so now if I go to login, just turn intercept off. Once I'm done intercepting things, I can just turn it off. So if I do Georgia and password 1, make sure I put in the same password that I did through the proxy. That logs me in just fine. So proxy's nice for like seeing the raw traffic, any hidden fields, manipulating the traffic, which may come in handy for us in some cases, as we'll see. So additionally, some basic things that we can do here. If we go over to the target tab, we'll see the IP address of our Win7 system. So we can right click on that. And we're not going to be able to scan in the free version. I do like the scanners in here, but we're not going to be able to do that in the free version. So if you buy the pro version, then you can possibly scan them. But we can spider the host, try and find some more pages. Just going to send it requests and see if it finds more pages. It's basically going to click on all these links. So it should be able to find us some additional pages. We could put in the, I'll just ignore the forms. You can put in information to submit the forms to help it log in and stuff as well. not too much actually on this site, basically just books and a few other things. But so that's the basics on our Burp Suite. We do, of course, have the scanner, but basically it doesn't do anything in the free version, it looks like. Yeah. Burp Intruder, what this is going to do is this allows us to do password guessing and otherwise send different options automatically into web forms. We can give it like payload lists and set up different ways of doing it. Like there's different options that you can do. And things like that, but that's another one that's going to be really slowed down in this version. Decoder is always nice, like if you're trying to decode information that's like base 64 encoded or something like that, you can just paste it in here and it'll take care of it. So even when I'm not necessarily doing web application stuff, I occasionally pull this up. There's, other things as well, like repeating the request. If you get an interesting request, just repeating it. See the results. Things like that. It can do a lot of things. The Pro version is much more powerful. So if you continue with web apps, I encourage you to buy it. So now let's actually start attacking some stuff. Look at those common web vulnerability classes.